Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be talking you through how to make a basic elevator. This is the final result. So if I press 1, it will interpolate smoothly to the floor that I have set it as, and 2, it will just go to the floor that I have set it as, and then 0 will go back down. Let's jump straight into it. To begin with, let's make 3 actors. So we're going to need BP elevator button, and BP elevator floor. I'm going to call this 2 because I messed up before and I need to make it again. So let's start off with elevator floor because this is the simplest one. We're just going to need a reference to all the levels that we need. So the way we're going to do that, the levels for the floors, so the way we're going to do that is using a 3D widget in the level. And it's going to have to be an array, because it's going to be an array of each floor that we want. So if I add this to the level, you can see I can create as many levels as I want. Today I'm just going to work with 3, sorry. And I'm going to do them in increments of 500. So that's the floors done. Now we're going to move on to the button. So this is what the player is going to click when they want to move to each level. So this is going to need a couple things. It's going to need a floor variable. So it's going to tell when you click on it, what floor it is, what floor to move to. And this is going to be set in the elevator blueprint. We're going to need a function called update text because we're going to have a static mesh and we're going to have a text, and on the text we're going to have a button, we're going to say what floor it is. So we're going to align it in the center and we're going to make it a bit bigger. Good test would be to have it as 0 so you can see what it's kind of going to look like. I'm going to change the color of this to make it the text more visible. Actually, I could just change the color of the text. Change it to blue. But also, actually, because it's going to be on the white background of the elevator, I'm just going to change the color too. So I'm going to roughly place this in the center. Make it a bit bigger. There we go. Doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously, you guys can mess around a bit more, and probably ideally you'd have some mesh for the button that you have. And okay, so we've done the elevators and we've done the button. So now to move on to the bulk of the video, we're going to work on the elevator. So we're going to need quite a few components compared to the rest of the blueprints. We're going to need a cube. This is going to be the wall, and we're going to need a floor. So obviously, yeah, so I was saying, yeah, so you could have your own meshes for this. I'm just going to be doing a very simple version today. So the wall, that's not right. If I do the floor first, do it like this, not like that, 0.1, and make these 5 each. Okay, that's the floor. You can see it's kind of resembling a floor. I'm going to change the color of this to like that. And then we're going to make this a wall, sorry. So that's going that way. Probably actually make that 0.1, and make these 5. Move it over by 250, minus 250, and up 250. I'm going to make them both grey, kind of resembling an elevator here. And then we're going to need some buttons, so we're going to need some child actors. This is how I'm doing it here. There is a way I could show you how you could make it so by each floor that you have in that floor's blueprint, it generates a button, but today I'm just going to have child actors. So button 0, and we're going to make it a button. Button 2 for me, it might be button 1 for you, or whatever you've named it. Okay, duplicate that, duplicate that. So we're just gonna have 3 buttons, and then we're gonna have a function called generate buttons. Just have to check I'm recording because I don't want to have to record this again. Get child actor cast to BP button, BP elevator button 2. The best thing to do would be using interfaces here, but for time's sake, I'm just going to use casts. Now we want to set floor, and each one, this is going to be 0. Okay, so let me think about this. No, we don't. So we're going to have to do this in order. Okay, this is correct. Sorry, yeah. So we need both of these, but these 1 and 2 is quite important. So the order of these buttons matters. So we want the 0 on the left and the 1 in the middle, and the 2, we want that on the right. Like so. We're just going to duplicate this and duplicate this, because the code is exactly the same. There's only a couple of things that are changing. So the button here is changing to the other child actor. Don't forget to set these variables correct. So 0, 0, 1, 1, and then this one is going to be 2, 2. Compile and save that. And now on begin play, we're going to call generate buttons. So this is going to generate the text based on what we set. The next thing we need to do is, in the construction script, we need to have first a reference to the floors blueprint. So elevator, or just call it floors cache, and type in rather the elevator floors blueprint that you made and make it instance editable. And all this is going to do is drag it in. And by the way, if you're wondering how I'm dragging it in without doing this and clicking get, I'm just holding control and letting go. Is valid. If it is valid, we're going to set the actor location to the location of the elevator, because why I'm doing this is, if I drag in the elevator, that's the button. I didn't mean to do that. If I delete that, if I drag in the elevator, imagine you were moving the elevator around. It'd be annoying to have to set to move the levels around with it. So this is just going to set the levels, the floors, to be exactly where the elevator is. Is the elevator in there? So if I move this in here, and I set the reference to this, and I compile here, it's going to snap the floors to the elevator, and it will move with it. So if I get the elevator here, and move, the floors will move with it. But you can move them away. But if you click compile, if I was to move the floors over here, click compile, then move back. Just because of this construction script here. We could also have this one begin play, but it works fine in the construction script because it's usually the level designer or someone who's doing the level. So everything's going to be in editor anyway. It doesn't need to be done on runtime, if that makes sense. So we're going to have a custom start moving function. Do camel case. We're going to have a parameter, which is going to be the voice crack, the floor, and we're going to make sure that the actor starts with tick enabled false. So you should be doing this to all actors that don't require tick. This is because when Unreal looks through all the tick marked actors, it will check the tick function and run it each frame. If you untick that variable, it won't do it. it won't even check the actor. So that's much more efficient, and it will help your game run faster. So now we're on to the bulk of it. So basically we need a couple things with this. We need a way to interact with the button that calls to move to a different floor, calls the elevator to move to a different floor. We need an elevator that will smoothly move to a floor and stop, and something to keep track of the different floors. So we've got all that with these blueprints, but we do need a way to interact with the buttons. So go to your character class or anywhere you are doing. So if you have an interact system built up, or if you're following from Bottank to this video, this is how I've set up a basic implementation, but it's not really practical. That's something that I would have in my game. In my version, I have a interact component, and I put that on a button. So when I interact with it, it does a interface call. But if I go to my third person character, all I've got on left mouse click is it's the camera. I'm just sending out array forward vector, and it's getting the hit actor, and it's casting to the elevator, BP elevator button, and then it's going to call the button. We haven't done the button pressed. So if I go to elevator basic here, so elevator button, we need, I didn't actually fill in these variables, so I'm getting too far ahead of myself here, so I need to set text, and I'm getting the floor int, so that's going to convert it to int, to text, sorry, and then we're going to need a custom button pressed. When the button's pressed, we're going to get parent actor, because we are a child of the elevator, we can get parent actor, and it will give us the right reference to the BP elevator 2. Once we have this reference, we can call start moving, and we can pass in the floor that we are currently. And we want to make sure this is valid before we call anything. Okay, so that is what button pressed is doing, and we need to go back into here and make sure button pressed is being called. So that is how we're going to interact with the button, and that's going to tell the elevator to start moving. So now we're going to go on to the bulk of this. This is where a lot of variables are going to be needed. So I'm going to go through the list of variables, and hopefully I'm still recording. Yes, here we go. So wait time. There's going to be a float. This is so we can have a bit of a delay before it starts moving. Time elapsed. And we're going to need travel duration. We're going to need an integer for the current floor. And we're going to need a start location. So I'll take you through the logic of this, and hopefully it makes sense. If it doesn't, leave a comment in the description, in the comment section, sorry, and I'll get to you. I'll reply back. So we're going to check if the floors variable is valid. If it is valid, we're going to do a equal, and we're going to check if is it equal to the current floor that we have set. Okay, and we're also going to do another check of this. So or, and plug that into the if. Is actor tick enabled? So if it is moving, or the floor that we want to move to is the floor we currently are, don't do anything. Don't run the rest of the code. Next, we're going to set wait time to a default of 1. We're going to set time elapsed to a default of 0, because we want it to reset every time we hit start moving. By the way, if you're wondering how I'm dragging it out without having to click set, I'm just holding down Alt while I drag it out. Now I'm gonna set travel time, travel duration, which, because we want the elevator to move to each floor in 3 seconds, we're gonna do a bit of a calculation here. But say you want, so this is solving a problem which you don't know yet. So the problem is, if you clicked floor 3 from floor 1, it would travel to floor 3 in 3 seconds. Now we don't want that. I want to travel to each floor. I want the travel time to go to each floor to be 3 seconds. So going to the 3rd floor from the 1st floor would be 9 seconds. And now if you don't want that, that's something that you can just set this to 3. But because I want that, I'm going to do a bit of a calculation here. So we're going to drag off this, the floor variable, and do a subtract. I'm going to get current floor. I'm going to get the absolute value, which is making sure it's just saying if this is a negative integer, make it positive at the same value. I'm going to times it by another variable called duration offset, which is how long in seconds. So an integer, so 1 here is 1 second to go to each floor. So if I set it to 3, it's going to be 3 seconds to go to each floor. And that's going to be converted into a float. Now we can drag off this and do set current floor, so we can cache it for the next time we call this variable, and we can have the correct data to do these calculations. Next, we're gonna start set actor location, which is going to be the actor's current location. Set actor. No, get actor location. And we're going to set tick enabled. So this starts off the process in the tick function. So if I do event tick, can do all the functionality on here, and this is what's actually going to smoothly move the elevator. So we're going to promote a variable here, and we're going to call it delta time. Then we're going to get wait time, and we're going to subtract from wait time. We're going to subtract delta time here. So all this is doing is creating our own timer and code here. So it's going to tick down from 1 to 0, and when it is at 0, so if wait time is less than 0, then run the rest of the code. So this is just doing a little timer of waiting for 1 second, and then it's going to move on to the rest of the code. So another if statement here. We're going to get time elapsed, and we're going to do greater than travel duration. And so if it is greater than travel duration, we've reached our end point. So we're going to call the function stop moving, which all it's going to do is set tick enabled false. Stop moving, which you could have other functionality there. It's just the function called when you want the elevator to stop. Set actor location, not that one. Actually, just set actor location. Yeah. And now we're going to smoothly lerp between the start location and the floor that you want to go to based on the floor selected. So we're going to need a couple things here. So we're going to want to get the vector version of the lerp, and we're going to plug in start location. Now we're going to get the floors cache that you got earlier, or that's actually selected in the editor, I'm going to get actor location. I'm going to plus this with floors, so all the floors, and we're going to get a ref of the current floor. And that's going to be plugged in the bottom, and then plug it into there, tidy up a little bit. And that's going to calculate the end vector. Now, how are we going to calculate the alpha, you may ask? Well, if we get a divide node, float divide, and we're going to have to move this out of the way a little bit. Get time elapsed, and get travel duration. We can set, so that's all we need to do to smoothly interp, but it won't move in lerp, but it won't move anywhere just yet. We need to set something else. So we need to set each frame the time elapsed. So just like over here, we did a sort of our own timer here. We're going to be each frame, we're going to be adding to the time elapsed. So every frame, the time elapsed between the frames, we're going to add delta time. I'm messing up here. We're going to get delta time from the variable that we made, and we're going to add it to time elapsed here, just like this. So every frame is going to add to time elapsed, and that's going to enable this to smoothly interpolate using the time between each frame. That's what delta time is. So on every player's screen, it's going to look smooth. Unless your PC is lagging. But even then, it should look okay. It should look better than if you were just hard coding this value, because it's getting the time between each frame. So it'll probably zoom up and down like really quickly if you're lagging. Okay, so there we go. That's everything. So now it should work. Fingers crossed. So the buttons are pretty big here, but that'll make it easy for me to click them. So so we've got a problem here. We're not updating the text. So if I go to elevator 2 and generate buttons, so I'm not calling the function, you may have noticed this, I'm not calling the function update text. You need to call that for each of these. Okay, so now that will update the text. And so we're on floor 0, so if I click floor 1, it will move to floor 1. Click floor 2, it will move to floor 2. Floor 0, it will move to floor 0. And you can tell it's the same travel speed going to the bottom floor, than it is to go into an increment of 1 up to the next floor. Let's see that again. So 1, smooth, is slow. Takes about 3 seconds, you can count in your head if you want. 2, and then finally 0. And you can see there's a bit of a wait time between each movement as well. And you could even check if you were unsure, oh, so is this actually the floors variable? No, the actual distance the floors is, you can tell that's the different floors. This one, you can tell that it is increments of 5, and that's roughly where it was going to. So yeah. If you have any questions, put them down below. Before I let you go though, if you're still here, I'm going to talk about what you could actually improve about this. So, as I might have mentioned, I can't remember, I recorded this 3 times. You can generate the buttons based on how many floors there are. So I did this in my prior implementation, where I had the possibility of having infinite amount of buttons, because it was spawning them and moving them when you click play. So you could have 20 floors and it would generate 20 buttons. And another way to improve this would be multiplayer code. Sound and visuals, a widget showing that you can interact with the buttons, and interface calls, as I mentioned, to optimize it. If you want me to make another video where I do all of these things, then put it down in the description, and if there are enough people want it, I'll do it. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and check out some of the links in the comment section where you can find some of the stuff I'm working on. I'm working on a new game, and you can follow us on Twitter. Have a great day.